Attention, the noise coming from your radio is not a mistake. It's from Afrovibes radio station, bringing the best of Afrobeat sound and programs to you.
Hey guys, this is Tequila with Afrovibes Radio, the #1 online internet radio station. Today we're at one of the most amazing events in Houston area by the lovely Lloyd Geit, the Geit Gallery. How are you doing this evening?
I am good. How are you?
Wonderful. So just start by telling us a little bit about the Geit Gallery.
The Geit Gallery is one of Houston's premier African art galleries, probably the premier African art gallery. We opened in about 2001. We are in the historic African American community of Third Ward. I have always loved art. And for 25 years, I was a television reporter, but I fell in love with art when I was a child. So I started going to Africa in 1976 after I finished undergrad. And I started bringing back art because I loved it, but I'd bring it back for myself. But friends would say, can you bring me something back the next time you go? So I said, okay, I'll do that. So over the years, I started bringing art back and selling it, and it financed all of my trips. When I got ready to transition from television, I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was going to open an art gallery, and because my last name is Geit, and people knew me from television for 18 years here in Houston, I thought this would be a great idea. So the day I left my television job at Fox 26, I got on a plane to Africa to buy art, and I never turned back.
That is so amazing. So what actually was it about the art? I know that you say you focus on traditional and modern African art. What was it about it that really attracted you and made you feel like you needed to bring it back here so people in the Black community could experience that as well?
The interesting thing about African art, when you talk about African art, people automatically think about masks and statues and fabrics. They don't think about what I call fine art, that being original paintings by African artists. The African artists do such incredible paintings. The colors jump off of the canvases and jump off of the paper. There's something about us as African Americans, we love color. So that's important as well. So when you see all this beautiful art coming out of Africa that celebrates Africa, then you can't help but say, oh my God, this is incredible. So what we decided to do was to bring this art here, custom frame the art, and sell it to the public. Not only are we helping ourselves, but we're also helping Africans who did not have avenues to sell their art. So what we're doing is we're putting food on the tables of Africans by purchasing their art, bringing it here to the U.S., and selling it. To me, that's very important. I'm so enthralled by the fact that we help other people who probably will never come to America, but who are still in Africa, and they need our assistance.
And that is so amazing because we definitely want to learn how to connect the African culture with the African American culture here. So we do appreciate you for bringing this here. And I know that you say you offer services where you guys actually do custom framing. Tell us a little bit more about those services and how people can actually find out, how they can come here and get that applied for themselves.
Framing is crucial. Framing can make or break a piece of art. People don't understand that. We understand that. So God has given me an eye to know how to frame art to make it exceptionally beautiful. So that's a service that we offer. Again, when you buy a piece at the Geit Gallery, you take it off the wall, it's already framed, take it to your house or we'll deliver it. That's so important. That's one of the services we offer. We also offer services to people who have pieces already that need to be framed or reframed. We'll do that. That's not an issue. We also go out to people's houses. People will say, I don't have a clue. I don't know what to do with my house. Can you help me with my art? And I'm like, sure. So we'll go out to their houses and offer them our services in terms of putting art in their houses, placing the art, and people are very satisfied with that. Those are just some of the things that we offer here at the Geit Gallery. We also have people to come here what we offer is an opportunity for people to use the gallery to do certain events. Every first Friday of the month, we have a social hour here, a networking event. But people also rent the gallery to have book signings, to have baby showers, to have weddings, you name it, they do it. Because it's so beautiful to have all of this incredible art around you and around whatever the event is that you do. So that's another service that we offer.
And can you tell us about a couple of the most popular pieces that you actually have showcased?
People love color. So a lot of the paintings that we have, the majority of the paintings we have such vibrant colors to them. Yellows, reds, golds, blacks, pinks, pieces that pop off of the wall. Also here at the gallery, which is an old house, the gallery's in an old house that was built in 1943. Every room is painted a different color so people can see what their paintings might look like on walls that have colors. The room that we're in right now has gold walls, and the paintings just literally pop off of these walls. This gallery also looks like a house, a home, somebody's home. We don't have white walls except for the ceilings. We have color, so black people love color. Black people love color. African people love color. People from the Caribbean love color. It is something about us that we are driven to color. So we showcase our art in colorful perspectives, and people love it. So that's what it is. People love the art. They love the vibrant colors. And psychologically, color affects you. Color affects your mood. I mean, psychiatrists and psychologists talk about that. Red does something to your mood. Gold does something to your mood. Colors do something to your mood. And we as African Americans and Africans, we appreciate color.
Absolutely true. And I also wanted to ask you, why is it so important for African Americans to learn to invest in African art?
African art, to me, is very important, and it is something you really want to invest in. First of all, it is who we are. When you come into somebody's house who's an African American, you need to see either black art, African American art, or African art, because that's who we are. We need to embrace who we are. Everybody wants to embrace us except us. And I think it is so crucial for us to showcase who we are, and what we can do. To me, that is just very, very important. I had a client once. I've had several clients. I had a client once who said, I don't want no African art in my house. Now, mind you, she was as black can get. But she didn't understand African art. I ended up doing her whole house, and she absolutely loved it. We need to expand what our definition of African and African American art is. Why are you going to go to some place and spend $1,500, $3,500 on a print by some white person who probably will never come into your community and do anything for your community, versus spending that money on art by Africans and African Americans? And you know that they will certainly be able to use that money more so than other people, and they care about us more so than other people.
That's very true. And when you have some of these pieces, what kind of story do you get from each one of them? I know you can't tell us about all of them, but when you look at them, what are some of the stories that you see?
I let people tell me what the stories are. You can see a piece that is just an absolutely wonderful piece, and I'll say to them, well, what do you see in that piece? Especially if it's an abstract piece. Now, I'll point things out to them in that painting that they might not have noticed. But I like for them to tell me what the piece means to them. There are some pieces that are very obvious. You see a face of a person, that's a very obvious piece. But then there are abstract pieces that you really got to think about. What was the artist thinking about when he or she did this? So if they ask me, well, what do you think of this piece? And it's an abstract piece, and I'll say, well, this is what I think. But it could be something very different. Art, especially abstract art, is something that you got to say what you think it is, and I can say what I think it is, and it might be diametrically opposed. The viewpoints might be diametrically opposed. So I like people who just love the art. If it's abstract, if it's whatever it is, they just love the art. And I don't think they need to explain why they love it. It's just, it touches you, it touches your soul. And that's how I personally buy art. If it touches my soul, then I'll buy it. But it has to touch me in some way.
Amazing. And just to tell some of our listeners out there, why should they come and check out the Guide Gallery?
Well, the Guide Gallery is the premier African art gallery in the city of Houston and probably in the state of Texas. We have an array of art by African artists from South, East, West Africa. Black art. Northern Africa generally has art that is more of a Muslim sort of a feel. I like black African art, sub-Saharan art. And so that's what they will see here. Original paintings by African artists and also art by Cuban and Afro-Cuban artists, which we have not seen in this city in quite a while because of the embargo that the U.S. government has against Cuba. So that is why they should come here. They should come here to not necessarily buy, we would like that, but to enjoy the beauty of African, Afro-Cuban, and Cuban art. That, to me, is what's important.
And touching on the Afro-Cuban art, I know a lot of people, they don't correlate African people being in Latin countries. But, there are black people all over the world. The African diaspora is just so wide. And you try to present that through a lot of your art. What is it that you've noticed that Afro-Cuban art and sub-Saharan African art have in common?
Great point. Great question. You have to realize that during slavery, one of the first places that slaves went was Cuba, so they could tend the sugarcane fields. So you get Africans in Cuba, and what starts to happening? Once slavery is over, they start having babies with different kinds of people. There are a lot of black people in Cuba. Black people throughout the world have had an influence on art, fashion, food, and music. There is not a place in the world that has not been touched by the beauty of Africa and the things that come out of Africa. So I went to Cuba. I've gone to Cuba 3 times already. And it is so... Cuba has been so affected by black influence. It is incredible. Everywhere we go, people might not want to give us credit for that, but everywhere we go, we leave our stamp. There are black people in Cuba. There are light-skinned black people in Cuba. You name it, the array is there. And that, to me, is something we need to understand and appreciate. And you talked about the diaspora. We are so much a part of the diaspora. My next trip for art is going to be in Brazil, because there's so many black people in Brazil, Bahia, people who do incredible art. So that's one of my next steps, is to go to more of the diaspora. I've sort of conquered Africa. I don't mean that as something negative, but over a 30-year period, I've been bringing art back from Africa. But now in Cuba, Brazil, Dominican Republic, that's my next step.
And just one last question. What are you hoping that a lot of your audience that come into the gallery actually gain from learning from Afro-Cuban art and sub-Saharan African art and Brazilian art? What do you want them to learn from that?
A strong sense of self. We, as African-based people, don't celebrate who we really are. We don't realize that mankind sprang from black Africa. We need to embrace that and be very proud of what our people did in the past. I am hoping that when people come to the Guide Gallery, they will see the beauty of what we did a long time ago, because we have some pieces in here that are very old, not paintings, but we have pieces, artifacts in here that are very old. And I think people will appreciate the beauty of what we did back in the day and what we do today.
Well, thank you so much for your time and telling us about the Guide Gallery. And really quickly, just share the website or any social media where our listeners can go and find out more information.
www.theguidegallery.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on all that stuff. But more importantly, our physical plant is at 2024 East Alabama in the historic 3rd Ward between Alameda and Emancipation Drive.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Guide. Again, you guys are tuned into the Blackout on Afrovibes Radio, the #1 online internet radio station, live at the Guide Gallery.
You can listen to Afrovibes Radio from anywhere around the world. Simply download our app from the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also listen via TuneIn app or visit our website at afrovibesradio.com and listen live.
Hey guys, we're back with Afrovibes Radio. We're live at the Guide Gallery. Today we actually have a special guest. We have author William Harrison. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so my name is Will Harrison. I'm part of this book called 20 Beautiful Men. I'm one of the 20 authors. I'm chapter 13. And it's just a book with a collection of guys just writing about their own personal journey, inspirational, and so that's kind of what the book's about.
So what actually inspired you to want to publish a book that showed a variety of different men speaking on different topics?
Sure. Well, so I'm not the author per se, right? So I'm just one of the writers. But for me, it was just the opportunity to share my story and hopefully, motivate somebody to really aspire for greatness.
And what was your story actually about?
I think my story is about finding your way, when the way isn't obvious. And it's not necessarily like overcoming bad environment, but just overcoming like self-doubt, trying to figure out, okay, where do I belong, and being comfortable not fitting in and still just, going for it.
So what have you found that many men have in common when it comes to emotions or professionalism or just relationships in general?
Well, I think, unfortunately, we let the media, peer pressure kind of dictate who we should be. And so it's hard for us to, really be ourselves. And so I think it takes a real courageous person, not saying that's me, even though I'm trying, but we just suffer from, wanting to fit in or wanting to be cool or all that kind of stuff and not really letting our guard down. And, that's I don't know if that's just being part of being a man, but that's definitely what we struggle with.
Do you feel as though a lot of men are afraid to show or be transparent because they don't want to seem as weak, or men are being taught that they have to be strong, they're not allowed to show emotion? Do you feel like now is a great time for men to kind of be able to say it's okay to speak on certain topics and not be embarrassed by it, but to help other men get through it?
Well, I think you can still be strong, but you can be strong, but you don't have to be overbearing. So I think it's good for men to be strong, but in a kind way, in a responsible way, because you still got to be a leader, whether it be in your community, at work, but it's just finding that balance where it's not forceful. But I do think times are changing where, the stereotype is kind of falling apart. But I think you still have to figure out, who are you? So even the stereotype might not work, but you still don't want to become something else that everybody else is being.
And speaking of stereotypes, what do you feel like is the biggest stereotype that African American men have to face every day?
I think it's really what we see in the media, where it gets to the point you think that's who you are. And some of that is true, but it's not 100%. So I think that's the struggle of, kind of like what my book's about, is finding your niche. And maybe you're the nerdy guy. That's cool. Maybe you're the jock. Maybe you're the poet. Maybe you're the artist. Maybe you're the painter, But we need to have more diversity within our own community and not everybody just be, this or that.
And outside of being a writer, what else do you do specifically?
Well, so I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always looking for new ideas, trying to explore new opportunities. I love to travel. That's one of my biggest things. I like to cook. I like to jog. Just try to do a little bit of everything, keep it going.
And really quickly, where can our audience and our listeners actually go purchase your book? And really quickly, just tell them why they need to actually go purchase your book.
Well, this is going to be an easy sell because the book is free. So if you go to my website, my website is thereallifewill.com, thereallifewill.com. And if you go to the site, there's a free e-version, so you don't have to pay for it. But the great thing about this book is not just about me. You got 19 other authors. And so I think whether it be my story or somebody else's, you'll get inspired and you'll be a better person for it.
And any social media that they can contact you directly?
Yeah. So I'm on, excuse me, sorry. Damn. I'm on Twitter, so I'm at KnifePrez. So at Knife, 9TH Prez, You can find me on Twitter. And if you go to my website, thereallifewill.com, you'll see my Twitter feed. And that's really where, I like to just have fun.
And just one last question before we got out of here. So we're at the Geidt Gallery today, which is an amazing gallery. I interviewed him earlier, the owner, and he was speaking about how he has a lot of Afro-Cuban art, Sub-Saharan. Why do you feel like it's so important for the Black culture to invest and embrace African art?
Well, I was going to say, if we don't, no one else will, but that's not true because a lot of people love African art, yeah. But I think, it's a connection to, it's almost like spiritual, but also historical and retrospective as far as understanding our culture before we came to this country. So I think it's a connection back to, where we started.
Well, thank you so much. Again, we have author William Harrison here at the Geidt Gallery. Please be sure to pick up his book. Again, you're listening to The Blackout, focusing on Black excellence, culture, and activism on Afrovibes Radio, the #1 online internet radio station.